today I wanted to talk about kind of a topic that most people won't understand or even want to hear about, but you know, it's part of the stuff that I know about. I talk about whatever. I mean, if you listen to most podcasts or vlogs or moto vlogs, people aren't staying on topics that they know about. This particular topic I actually know quite a bit about, and that would be ammunition. A lot of people debate endlessly on the best ammunition types for their firearms here in the US. And in the early 90s, I think it was, there was a big shootout with police, and their 9mm ammunition was failing them in the worst way possible. It was failing to stop the bad guys, and so that prompted the design of the 40 caliber. The 40 caliber was not without its issues, though. For one, the 40 caliber round tends to stay around the sound barrier. It jumps above it and then goes below it, and so what that means is the bullet wobbles at the sound barrier, so it's not quite as accurate of a round. Also, most people report a twist to the recoil, and that's something that I've always felt with the 40 caliber round, is that it has a twist to the recoil. I don't mind a lot of recoil as long as it's a nice even feel, but for some reason that 40 caliber round feels like it twists. With modern updated ammunition, the 9mm is back, and with lots of testing of the ballistics of the 9mm, it has pretty much performed almost as well as the 40 caliber because of modern ammunition. And you can get a lot of garbage modern ammunition. So ammunition, purchasing that and researching it and knowing which one you're getting and knowing exactly how it's going to perform and watching it perform through different barriers is just as important as picking out a firearm, because the ammunition itself is the biggest factor in your firearm. Yeah, you want a reliable firearm, but you also need reliable ammunition, and not just reliable in is it going to go off, is the primer going to go off, but also is it going to expand and cause a permanent wound cavity, even expand on impact even through barrier. And so, I mean, what I use is a solid monolithic external hollow point, which basically just means it's a hard shell hollow point, and it's external, so it's got grooves on the outside of it, which cause a lot of damage on impact, no matter what barrier it hits first. And in testing, even in modern times, a lot of ammunition will go through any kind of barrier and then fail to expand. So you're basically just shooting ball ammo. So, and by barrier, I just mean like a simple sweatshirt or a coat. Much less glass or something like that, where it would really cause that nose to cave in on itself. So, yeah, they've come up with these external hollow points, which that is pretty much what I carry. I carry a combination of that and Underwood. Underwood actually makes the solid hollow points as well, but I pretty much primarily carry Underwood ammunition. They are far superior to most ammunitions. But so 9mm is back. I like it because the follow-up shots are really quick. You have a larger magazine capacity. Generally speaking, you can carry a smaller pistol, creating a smaller footprint. And, you know, this is one of those topics that kind of makes people nervous, and I guess rightfully so because of all the news stuff that goes on, but really incidents are far and few between, especially in areas where a lot of people carry this stuff. There is no way, unless I am fearing for my life and I'm directly attacked, that I would ever misuse, well, that's not misusing a firearm, but like turn a firearm on anybody. There's no way that would ever happen unless I was being directly attacked and I was fearful for my life. And that's the case with 99.999% of everybody who carries. And people just get nervous when they hear about firearms because the news demonizes them. They just make it sound like everybody's having shootouts, the Wild West over here, when in actuality that's not the case. And when you look at the statistics in the USA in gun-related deaths, most of it's suicide or police shooting bad guys. And there's a very skewed statistic when it comes to that. But there's a lot more murder in other countries than there is here in the U.S. It's very, very, very safe here. So, that out of the way, I'm going to keep going on about the ammunition types. These are pistol ammunitions, obviously. You've got 45 ACP, which is an old, this is the granddad of the big three. So the big three are 9mm, 40 caliber, and 45. 45 ACP is a big old piece of lead, and it just doesn't move very fast. Generally speaking, it's accurate though. I really enjoy shooting 45. It seems accurate. It seems like it has a good slow recoil, and I like it, but it doesn't perform really well going through barriers. It's just big and slow. And so you got 9mm, 40, and 45. Well, each one has its flaws. Each one has its upsides. The 45 also doesn't have the capacity that a 9mm does. A lot of 9mm, you can have 18, 20 rounds in a magazine in a gun that can fit in your pocket. I mean, that's pretty lethal. That's substantial. Whereas a 45, generally speaking, if you get small enough to where you can carry it concealed, then you're talking probably 10 rounds is your max. And of course 40 caliber is right between those two. Something that I have experimented with in the last couple of years is 10mm. 10mm was, I don't know exactly the history behind it, but I think it was developed by people who really wanted like rifle power from their pistols because of dealing with grizzly bears, probably that kind of thing. Of course, I'm not going to speak on where it came from because I don't really know, but that would be my assumption anyway. So I started shooting 10mm, and I'm undecided on all of this, to be clear. I really like 9mm. For one, 9mm is the primary round used in my favorite gun of all time, which is the P226, which is by far the most reliable gun of all time as far as handguns go. So I like that, but I also have one chambered in 40 caliber. Underwood makes a very powerful 40 caliber. I would not hesitate. In fact, I don't hesitate to carry that on me when I'm backpacking, because that's my primary gun when I'm backpacking. I carry that thing. However, I have 10mm now as well, and that's a gun that recoils like hardcore. But then I shot it side by side with a 45, and it's actually fairly similar to the 45, but it doesn't have the downside of the diminished magazine capacity. With 15 rounds in the magazines, generally speaking, it's the size of a 40 caliber, but it has massive power behind it, so you're shooting rounds at 1600 feet per second if they're properly loaded, which a lot of the manufacturers, again, going back to the ammunition manufacturers, you have to get the good stuff. Otherwise, you're going to get some garbage 10mm that fires just like a 40 because they underperform that stuff. They underload it. So Underwood does not do that. They actually load it like it's supposed to be loaded, and in that case, it's getting close to rifle power. You're getting close to rifle power out of your handgun, which is crazy, and you're getting to 15 rounds, which is also crazy. So very, very lethal option, and it's one that I've been using more and more. That said, I don't take carrying these things lightly. Generally, I don't carry unless I'm actively training with them, because not only that, but you have to know in each situation what you can do, and it's not always that clear. So yeah, it's really important to know the law, and if I'm not actively training and actively studying this stuff and know that I can do the right thing, and know first and foremost that you're ready to pull the trigger, then if you can't do it, if you don't think you can do that, then I wouldn't carry at all. If you're in the situation and you're not gonna know what to do and do it, then it's a liability 100%, because then bad guy has a gun or the wrong person gets shot. It's not good all around. So that's a very important thing to think about when you're carrying is, do you know the law? Do you know exactly when to use it? Generally speaking, if you're doing a reasonable thing, you're in the right. So, I mean, you should be fearful for your life, and that's justification. But there's a lot more nuanced stuff than that you would have to deal with if you ever did have an incident. There's going to be a lot of judgment passed on you, I'll put it that way. That said, those are the main handgun rounds. 380 is also one that's generally used in small pistols that a lot of women like, and kids, and some guys like to carry 380. Personally, I just don't think it has enough velocity behind it to have the desired effect. Some people carry 22 Magnum or even 22 LR. Those just don't have the mass. You're gonna piss somebody off, and they're gonna keep coming at you, and it's not gonna end well for you unless you're a very good shot. Now, generally speaking, when you see those videos of an officer shooting a bad guy who's coming at him with a knife or something, and the guy keeps coming, the officer keeps shooting, generally speaking, that's going to be because the officer did not research his ammunition, and it's failing. His ammunition is not expanding as it enters a coat or something like that. It's just like being shot with ball ammo, and it's just going straight through the bad guy, and it's not doing anything to him, really. So that's the danger of not researching your ammunition and watching the ballistics and seeing how it performs. That said, the rifle ammo is a whole other story. Personally, I'm a big fan of 7.62 by 3.9, which is the AK-47 round. I'm also a fan of 5.56 and 308. I like all of them, really. That's the big three in those. The 5.56, the only problem I have with it is that, generally speaking, these are self-defense rounds in a much larger capacity, where you need these things to blast through just about anything. And 5.56 round is so small, it just doesn't have the mass to really get through stuff. It does get through the basics, it'll go through car doors and things like that, but concrete barriers, stuff like that, it's going to have a really hard time with. So yeah, I really enjoy the 5.56 round. I wouldn't hesitate to carry it, but if I were to enter the apocalypse today and survive with anything, well, I would utilize a rifle that I already have, because it's the one that I picked already. It's the it's an AR platform 7.62 by 3.9, which is widely used around the world, easy to find ammunition, and it's got more mass than the 5.56. Granted, it's not as powerful as a 308, but it also doesn't kick like a 308. But it's right there with the 308 as far as performance goes. I really like it. I don't mind shooting that thing rapid fire. I'm pretty accurate with follow-up shots. Like the AK round it's really, really good. And now the 308, that's a good round too. I mean, I don't know, I don't think I would hesitate to carry one of the three, but if you're going up against people with military capability, well, first of all, if you're going up against military, you're going to be lucky to have a 1-for-1 ratio, really. But if you're going to attempt it, let's say the Red Dawn scenario happened where the Russians dropped in with parachutes, you had the Wolverines out there trying to take them out. The Team Wolverine, basically the high school kids, they all got together and they're trying to survive. Well, in that scenario, you've got some crazy technology these days. So my emphasis would be on survivability first, and that means you have to hide your heat signature, number one. That's going to be, before you pick up anything, you better hide your heat signature. Something, I would always be covered in something. You better get that done right away. And you better cause a lot of noise outside of, maybe I'm not supposed to be talking about this stuff. This is all tactical stuff that maybe I don't think I could get in trouble over this stuff. It's pretty commonly known. Anyways, shot spotters are a thing. So, military shot spotters, if you fire a shot at, say, a force that has taken over your country, bad guys with skull masks or whatever, let's just pretend, you're going to be spotted immediately when you take that first shot. Therefore, you have to create noises everywhere that are just like the one that you just made. And then you have to move. And you better be a long ways off. A long ways off. So in that scenario, pretty much looking at 6.5 Creedmoor would be a good option. Your team needs to be a bunch of hardened snipers. And because there's going to be no close combat, you're going to be dealing with a missile, probably not individuals hiking through the woods to come at you. It's going to be very precision. There's going to be some precision fired rockets or missiles and you're going to have to counter that stuff. Now, granted, I don't know if there's any defense, honestly. It may be so advanced nowadays that there is no defense, so you're probably just donezo. If it's a real military force, I think you'd just be donezo. You might get one shot off, and then you're like, well, okay, that's it for me. Goodbye, world. I think that's most likely what would happen. Especially if a force is so advanced that they're walking on American soil. Because apparently to do that, they had to get through our defenses, our military defenses. From what I've seen of the military, it's pretty analog still. It's not... You pretty much want to stay analog, and you want to keep everything mechanical. You don't want a lot of fancy electronics. Dude, my front brake doesn't work. This thing really, it doesn't want to stop me at all. Anyways, yeah, so 556 or 223, which is generally interchangeable around. The 223 is kind of more civilian, and I would not recommend it if you need to defend yourself. I wouldn't use the 223. There is a difference, trust me. 7.62 by 3.9. That's my favorite round right now. It's widely accessible. It's widely used around the world. You'll probably always be able to find it. Even if you get dropped in the middle of another country somewhere, pretty much all the countries love that round. And then 308, that's the really big one. It has pretty good reach, lots of power. Yeah, I like all three of those. And then 6.5 Creedmoor, that's if you want to have a flat shooting round. You want to go probably with that one. You're going to want something that can really reach out. And I would hate to be in a situation where I had to use the first three that I mentioned. I would hate it worse if I had to use the pistol rounds. But I'd really hate it having to use the military style rounds, defense rounds generally. But in the Red Dawn scenario, I think you're definitely going to want 6.5 Creedmoor, and then you're going to want to run. That would be my advice. Just run. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening to me blabber on about ballistics, ammunition styles, and what to do in the apocalypse. Catch you on the next one. Peace.
Alright guys, I just wanted to thank my Patreon supporters. That would be Lance Darnell, Jim Jolson Jr., Kurt Kinghorn, Daniel Roush, Brian Thomason, Wade James, Moto Creek, Nathan Young, Jason Froling. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. Thank you.